Right, g'day everyone. I'm coming to you today from the beautiful Lake Jasper. You see the lake behind me, just in the day use area here. On my trip between Margaret River and Pemberton, going through the tracks. The YouTube video will be up in a few weeks when I get that edited. Today I just thought I'd make this really quick video. Getting up on my high horse, literally getting up on my high horse. There's something that's been bugging me about the internet and adventure motorbikes for a little while now. There's one talking point that seems to come up again and again and again when people talk about adventure bikes. When a new adventure bike is released, when people talk about existing bikes, and when people modify bikes, there's one through line that seems to come up probably more often at least than it should, and that's the topic of seat height. Now, seats on adventure bikes are important places, and yeah, it is very important to have a good seat height, or at least have a good seat under you. This one is just literally the stock KTM seat that they put on their 450 EXC, or really any EXC from this era. It's not a very comfortable seat. I sort of get away with being able to put one leg at a time on the seat on the longer trips. You know, a seat concept would go a long way. But the topic that comes up, I think, most often is that of the seat height. Now, this is a tall bike. I'm calling it an adventure bike because it's a bike that I do adventures on. It's the kind of riding I do. I put the tower on it. You know, you can see I've got my bags on it at the moment. It's my adventure bike. The seat height on this bike, off memory, is 970 millimeters. 970 millimeters. I'll edit the imperial in that, but that's tall. That's over 3 foot. That's almost 4 foot tall. Yeah, about 3 foot tall, something like that. 3.5 foot. This is a tall bike. It's a very tall bike. Now, it's tall because obviously this is long, but also because it's got great suspension underneath it. It's got enduro suspension on it. It's the kind of suspension you want to have when you're riding through the trails, like you're going to see the video of me riding. You want to have this kind of suspension. It's also a very light bike, so that makes the height not as much of an issue. But everybody talks about seat height like it is the standard. You want to have as low seat heights as possible, and I'm sure that helps. But people act like a seat height over about 800 mil, 850 mil is unusable. This is 970 millimeters. Now, I'm 5'11". I don't know what my inseam is. It's whatever the inseam would be for someone who's about my height. I don't have particularly long legs. And this bike is not a problem for me. There's a couple of ways. You're kind of on the wrong side to be able to see this. There's a couple of ways you can approach a bike like this. So getting on and off, you can just from the ground get on the bike. Now you see what I did right there. This foot immediately came up on the foot peg. That foot is now on the ground. I've now got the side stand on the ground and I've got my foot on the ground. Now it's not on the side stand anymore. I'm holding the weight of the bike, just like that. It's not a hard thing to do. Yes, if I'm sitting down and trying to wade through, I can kind of get my tippy toes. You know, I'm scraping the ground, but it's not a problem. The times when you're going to be doing that are going to be the times when you are in a deep rut or some mud or something like that. You're pretty much going to be bellying out the bike anyway at that point. At which point having a seat height of 970 mil is not a problem. I will grant you, this is a very narrow seat, which does increase my reach to the ground a little bit because it brings my legs a bit closer together. But is it that much bigger? That much of a difference? So I've shown you that you can just get on it with your foot on the ground. The way I tend to get on this bike is foot on the foot peg, up. Ooh, I'm sinking in the ground here. I'm going slow so I can show you. Foot on the foot peg. Yeah, hang on, let me just adjust my bike so I'm not sinking in again. Alright, let's try this again. It does show you that sometimes you have to have multiple ways to get on the bike. Foot on the foot peg, over, and like that. Now I've had basically 2 or 3 points of contact. I can do that. I don't know if this bike's going to sink again, but I can do that for the most part without even any hands. There you go, no hands on the bike, and I'm now sitting on the bike. I'm in full control of this beast. When it comes to that, if you come to a stop in hard terrain and your immediate thought is to put both feet down, that's not a problem with the bike. That's a problem with your riding style. Depending on what you want to do, you always want to be able to have control of your foot controls. You can see I'm holding the front brake so my bike doesn't move forward and back. That's another little hack you can have. The seat height on an adventure bike is not the limiting factor. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Now, I will grant you that having a low seat height will make a bike a little bit more approachable. The problem is, if you have no experience off-road, and the first thing you do is jump on an 890 or a 790 or something like that, and you think, wow, you know, it's a tall bike. What's that got about 890 millimeters of seat height, something like that off memory? That's there. That's a considerable amount lower than this bike. If you're jumping on a bike and it's low enough that you can get your feet to the ground and you think, great, because I can get my feet to the ground, I can get through anything, you're going to get in trouble. It's one of those harsh truths about adventure riding. Everyone wants to start out on the big flash bike. You want to start off on, I started off on a 450, probably not the greatest idea. You want to start off on an enduro bike, on a dirt bike of some kind. Get your skills first, then get your adventure bike. You can do adventure riding on a dual sport bike. You can do adventure riding on a DRZ 400. You can do adventure riding on a KTM 450. You can do adventure riding on a CRF 450. Yes, you might have to learn a little bit more about bike maintenance. Probably not the worst thing in the world. But it will teach you better skills than if you jump on the biggest bike that you can get both feet down on. That's a bike that you're never going to take off-road. You're going to have this bike that's capable of going off-road, and you're going to go from coffee shop to coffee shop because it's all you have the ability to do and the bravery to do. This is my hobby horse. It's a little bit, I get a bit upset when I see everybody, the first thing that they say about seat height, about adventure bikes is, what's the seat height? I'm modifying a Honda NX 650, and I said in a comment section somewhere something about, I wish that somebody would build adventure bikes with a frame and suspension that are derived from a dirt bike rather than a road bike, which I think it's a legitimate concern or a legitimate thing to say. And so I'm building a Honda NX 650. The first reply that I had to that was, what's the seat height on the NX 650? Seat height on the NX 650 is about 150 mil lower than this bike from standard. If that's too unapproachable, if that seat height is too high for you, the only thing I can say is that the problem is not the seat height. There was a legendary Dakar rider. I'm going to butcher his name. He was a Frenchman, and he was riding the BMWs in the 80s. Gaston Riher or something like that. Riher. I think it was Gaston Riher. There's a picture of him sitting next to his BMW R80 GS, I think it was. And that thing had a seat height of over 1 meter tall. And he was about this. This picture is him doing this. this. And he was flogging that bike through the desert, through the hardest terrain, at the top speed. Phenomenal rider. He couldn't even get 1 foot to the ground, let alone 2. I think I've made my point. I feel like I'm having a bit of a whinge at the internet, and I don't really love that, but it's just something that does annoy me a little bit about the state of the conversation around adventure bikes and seat height. If I can adventure ride a bike with a seat height of almost 1 meter tall, you can ride your adventure bike with your seat height, which is way lower than this. And I think that's all I'm going to say. Get out there, learn your skills. If you can, get on a little 250 dirt bike, an ag bike, something like that. Get some skills in the dirt first. Learn to ride without having to put your feet down everywhere. And you'll have a much better time off-road. And eventually, you'll come back to this video and you'll say, do you know what, Justin, I think you were onto something. That's all I've got to say. I hope you enjoy your day. Make sure you subscribe so that you can see the video, or the video series, I should say, of the ride that's taken me to this beautiful location. It's been one crazy journey. Right, enjoy. See you next time.